I would like to introduce the Superintendent Shanley of this Coxsackie Correctional Facility. Please, everybody, give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coxsackie Correctional Facility. This is our first TED event. I hope everybody enjoys it. Thank you, Commissioner Annucci, for coming, Deputy Commissioner McCoy, all 54 outside guests. I know some of you has traveled a long way. Thank you for a couple people I want to personally thank, Delia Cohen and Correctional Officer James. They made this happen. So this is going to be a tight schedule. So you're not here to listen to me speak. So with that, please enjoy the event. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do that again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be your MC today. My name is Marcelle Chandler. Ironic because with my initials, I'm an MC every day. I want to thank all the outside guests for clearing your busy schedules and taking this trip to Coxsackie Correctional Facility. Today makes history. This is the first time this facility has ever done anything like this. And I'm pretty confident that Ted doesn't go to prison every day. Here's another first. This is my first time ever on stage. So if I pass out right now, it's because everybody's staring at me. My heart ain't beat this fast since I've been arrested. I want to thank the administration here at Coxsackie. As you all know, organizing a TED event is never an easy undertaking, and a prison presents a special set of challenges. We greatly appreciate the tireless support of the entire executive team, in particular, Deputy Superintendent Blaze and Superintendent Shanley. Please, everybody, give them a round of applause. This couldn't have gotten off the ground without the encouragement and the support of the leadership in the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision and Albany. Please join me in thanking DOC's Acting Commissioner, Anthony Annucci, and his executive team. This next person deserves the greatest applause ever. She came here 5 days a week to prep us for this event. She taught us so many things. It was a blessing and an honor to work alongside of her. Not just work alongside of her, but to learn from her. Please, everybody, give it up for Delia Cohen. Thank you, Delia. Delia changed us forever. I would also like to thank Officer James and Officer Hussain. Those are the correctional officers that also helped since day one. For those of you who don't know, the correctional officers are the prison guards or the peace officers that keep this place safe. I want to thank all of the correctional officers that work at this facility. I've been here for a long time and I see what they deal with on a daily basis. They get my utmost respect and they too deserve a round of applause. As you all know, our last event was canceled due to violence in this facility. We're in jail. Sometimes bad things are just gonna happen. It's inevitable. But what I learned on my journey is, it's never about what happens to us in life. It's always about how we react. Our reaction determines our future 95% of the time. So my motto is, and you may have heard this before, when life throw you lemons, you gotta make lemonade, or else you just get smacked with lemons, and that doesn't feel good. Our theme today is our shared humanity. The whole world has been dealing with a pandemic for the past couple years. And I think that everybody in this room has been affected by this horrible virus one way or another. Yeah, COVID. I think we all can agree on hating it, right? With a show of hands, who hates COVID? Pretty much everybody in this room. pretty much everybody in this room. Because if you told me that you like COVID, I'm going to automatically think that you bought stock in the vaccine company or you're just crazy. But that doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to make is that we all have one thing in common. No matter what, we all have one thing in common. We're all human beings. No matter what division or label defines us, we all share the luxury of living life. Today, let's focus on what we have in common. Let's try to see each other through a lens that isn't distorted by bias or presumptions, but illuminated with harmony and grace. That's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you look to the back wall, we have what we call a Before I Die wall. We were inspired by TED attendee Candy Chain. After watching her TED Talk, we learned that she lost someone who was very dearly to her. A loved one of hers passed away, and she came up with the idea to help people focus on what they want to accomplish while they're still alive. So at lunch, we would like everybody in here to participate and write on the Before I Die wall, please. To the left of me, we have some artwork that was created by an incarcerated individual. His name is Nicholas Cephaly. He created this artwork by using tissue and soap and other materials available to us. He did a wonderful job. Please, everybody, give it up for Nicholas Cephaly. Today, you'll hear from a few incarcerated individuals who attend various programs, making change while we serve time for the mistakes that we made. Because that's another thing that we all have in common. We all make mistakes. Our past shouldn't solely define who we are. The present needs to count too. And with that, I'd like to introduce someone who I witnessed pour his heart and his soul into not only his talk, but also in his own rehabilitation and redemption. Everybody, give it up for Michael Grasing.
It's a real honor to speak here today. I appreciate everyone's attention. When I was first given the opportunity to speak here today, I was apprehensive. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. So I did what I normally do during times of uncertainty. I called my sister, Nicole. Nicole's 2 years younger than I am. She's my best friend, my rock, my everything. Of course, she hit me with words of encouragement. You know, you should do it. It's a great opportunity. It'll be good for you. I knew she was right. It would be good, cathartic even, but I still wasn't sure. So I called her back a few days later. She asked me what I was going to do. I told her, I really don't know. She said, hold on a second. Now, little did I know that earlier in the day, she had picked up my son, Mikey. Mikey's 13 years old, and he was going to be spending a few days with my sister. So Mikey gets on the phone, and he's all animated. He says, hey, Dad, I hear you doing a TED Talk. That's awesome. I guess I'm doing it. They even wanted to come up here today to hear me speak. I told them they wouldn't be permitted to come inside. They said, that's okay. We'll just sit in the parking lot. This way you know that we're here for you. I had to convince them not to drive 3 hours to sit in a parking lot. And that's the kind of love and support that I've been blessed to have the last decade plus of incarceration. Family, friends, even complete strangers. I got a letter from a guy back home when I was in downstate. He said, hey, Michael, that could have been me 1,000 times. Keep your head up. You're gonna get through this. God bless you. We're still in touch 8 years later. He just wrote a letter to the parole board on my behalf. But no one has been in my corner more than my sister, Nicole. It's always been that way with her and I. You know, growing up, we were inseparable. I was the overprotective brother. A little too much at times, you know, she could never have a boyfriend or anything like that. I always wanted to make sure that she was okay and nothing bad ever happened to her. And it's this special relationship that I have with my sister that's really instilled in me a sense of compassion and empathy for others, to the point where I would never hurt anyone, especially a woman, especially a young woman. But that's exactly what I did. On June 24th of 2012, my life was forever changed. That was the day I caused the death of a beautiful young woman. Her name was Brittany Walsh. She was 18 years old. She had just graduated high school, just attended her senior prom. She was enrolled in college. Brittany had a graduation party to attend that night, but she decided not to go. Instead, she picked up an extra shift at work so she could save money for college. And I was out with friends that night, and I was drinking, and I was intoxicated. I made the choice. I decided to drive home that night. You know, I never considered myself selfish. I would always put others before myself. But getting behind the wheel that night was the ultimate act of selfishness, recklessness, indifference, the result of which has been unimaginable, never-ending pain and suffering for many, many people. You know, I could blame addiction or intoxication, but that's a cop-out. I have an amazing family that just wanted me to do better. I had a beautiful wife and a 3-year-old son at home. It's not addiction. It's me. It's my fault. 100% my fault. So I was on my way home that night, about a mile away. And people always tell me, man, you were so close. A mile, 100 miles, it doesn't matter. In fact, in my eyes, the proximity makes it that much more egregious because it would have been a $5 cab ride. So we were both on our way home that night, close to our houses. I wound up rear-ending her car. It flipped over, and she died instantly. My car hit a telephone pole, and I was knocked unconscious. I was barely injured when I was rushed to the hospital, oblivious to the fact that I had just killed someone. No, I didn't find out until the next night, when I was handcuffed to a hospital bed, surrounded by police. It felt like the whole world just collapsed right on top of me. I couldn't scream, I was numb. All I could think about was, did she have any siblings? What her parents were going through? What my parents were going through? I was destroyed. And that's the first time I seriously contemplated suicide. It definitely wasn't going to be the last. Now my niece Ava, she's 10 years old. She was born June 26th of 2012 in the same hospital that I was at. So while my sister, my best friend, my soulmate really, while she was giving birth to her first and only child, I was one floor below, handcuffed, surrounded by police. What was supposed to be a joyous day for my family was overshadowed by what I had done 2 days prior. You know, someone really close to me, she was mad at me at the time. She said, you really ruined the childbirth experience for your sister. You just ruined it. She was right. I did. That was day 2. There's a lot more pain and suffering to come. But what me and my family were going through at the time pales in comparison to what the Walsh family were going through. Now, they were really suffering. It still makes me nauseous when I think about what I did to them. So after languishing in county jail for almost 3 years, I was sent up north with an indeterminate sentence of 10 2/3 to 32 years. You know, family and friends tell me, man, you got railroaded. You got way too much time. It was an accident. It was unintentional. I always tell them no. Of course it was unintentional, but that doesn't change the result. It doesn't change all the lives that were destroyed by my reckless actions that day. No, I had it coming, and I got exactly what I deserve. Now, when I entered docs, I had a plan to dedicate myself to sobriety, physical fitness, and maintaining a positive attitude so I can get home to my family at the earliest possible time. Now, sobriety, I shouldn't even have to mention, but I will. June 24th of 2012 was the absolute last day an intoxicant entered this body. Any other way, and I wouldn't be able to look my son in his eyes, or my sister, or myself. Now, physical fitness has always been my salvation, even before I got locked up. When I'm taking really good care of my body, usually a healthy mind follows. Usually. Now, the third one was going to be the most difficult. Maintaining a positive attitude in prison is not an easy task. There's a lot of negativity, misery, and despair inside these walls, especially when you're locked in a cell. Now, that's where I would become my own worst enemy. That's where the ugly thoughts of suicide would return. I had this twisted logic where maybe if I just offed myself, somehow a burden would be lifted from my family. They wouldn't have to drive 3 hours to come see me, answer my phone calls, or worry about me making the parole board. And just maybe, the Walsh family would have some sense of relief knowing that I was dead. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the answer. It would only make things 1,000,000 times worse, and it would make me completely irredeemable. But no matter how much I worked out or tried to stay positive, I couldn't escape this black cloud of profound guilt and regret. It was all-consuming, debilitating at times. I was constantly thinking about Brittany and her family, replaying that day over and over again. It should have been me, not her. Wishing I could just give up my life to bring her back. I had this constant knot in my chest, walking around always with the 1,000-yard stare. You know, guys would come up to me and say, "Mikey, snap out of it. You're always in your head. You're always stressed out." I knew they were right, though. I had to fix this. One day I'm going to get released, and my family's depending on me. I have to be a father, a brother, a son. I have to be strong physically and mentally. But what else can I do? What else is there? In 2017, I was very fortunate to be selected to the hospice program here at Coxsackie. And what a wonderful program it is. They put us through a 40-hour training course, after which we're able to provide hospice care for terminal incarcerated individuals in the RMU. Now, these guys are suffering, and they're all alone. You know, we'll help them write letters to their families, make sure they're getting their fluids, but most importantly, we provide companionship. Now, I like to lighten the mood right away. I'll try to get them to smile or laugh with a funny story or a joke. But that's what they want. They don't talk much, but they listen. When they're in their final days, they're put in what's called a 24-hour vigil, meaning they have a hospice aide present with them for 24 hours until they pass. Now's when they're really scared. Now, during a vigil, I like to get really close. I'll put my hand on their forearm, or I'll hold their hand, and I'll just let them know, hey, I'm here. We're here together. You're not alone. It's going to be okay. I'll make sure they're very comfortable, and I'll keep repeating it until they pass. Now, I had a patient one time. He was from my area. He had committed heinous crimes against women back in the 80s when I was growing up. They called him the Long Island Rapist. I actually know one of his victims, but that didn't change anything. I treated him just like I treat all the others, because that's what the program is all about: compassion and mercy. And it's so rewarding, so mutually beneficial. And you know, after about a year or so of hospice, I started to notice a change. It wasn't so difficult to maintain that positive attitude anymore. I started encouraging other incarcerated individuals to do better, to come work out with me, get their GED, join Bard College or hospice. And of course, those thoughts of suicide are completely gone. I still have that knot of immense pain and guilt, and I always will. But it's become more bearable, and I'm learning to live with it. You know, before I got locked up, I was living with blinders on. I always wanted to make sure that my family was okay. I was taking care of only what's mine. But there's more to life than that. I have a responsibility to help others too. It's a virtue that I can't wait to share with my son. I know my family's depending on me, but now I also know complete strangers are depending on me too. Whether it's through volunteer work at a hospice facility back home, or a high school, or a college campus. Any place where I can share my story and hopefully intervene in people's lives that are headed down the same path that I was in 2012 and help them avoid catastrophe. But no matter what I do, I'm always brought back to the Walsh family. They're always right here, front and center. When I go to bed at night, when I wake up in the morning, and they always will be. At my sentencing in January of 2015, I told the Walsh family that I would grieve with them for the rest of my life. Now, I haven't stopped since, and I never will, because they matter most of all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is someone who we didn't expect to help us as much as he did. From day one, he offered his assistance, and he changed our perception on correctional officers. A man with a big heart, a man who is approachable, but most importantly, a man who values respect. Everybody give it up for Officer James.
Good morning, welcome. Well, good afternoon, right? Good afternoon. Well, when I met Miss Brown and Miss Cohen, she says, "You got to say something." I said, "Sure, why not?" So I said, "Okay, there it is, respect." Every time I hear that word, so many things comes rushing to my mind. I think of Miss Aretha Franklin spelling it out in a song. It takes me right back to my childhood. I look at the state of the world today and I think maybe a little respect to oneself and others would go a long way. Please understand, we got different ethnicity, culture, beliefs. It doesn't mean one is less or greater than the other. As humans, we set boundaries and laws to keep the peace. That's yours, that's mine, and we get along. Yet humans have found ways to bypass certain boundaries, and in doing so, have totally erased respect. Without respect, we would have chaos. Chaos is destructive. In my line of work as a corrections officer, there's absolutely no room for chaos. We uphold safety and security to the highest level. Incarcerated individuals always tells us we need to show them some respect. And our answer is, as always, if you want it, show it. Yet, in prison, our word is our bond. If we promise an answer and we don't deliver, we ultimately lose credibility, trust, and ultimately respect. Growing up, my grandparents always told me, respect everyone, they earn your disrespect. There is no prize in giving respect, but better accomplishment lies in earning it. Respect brings a certain dance to the party, an acknowledgement of joy, charisma, and enthusiasm. Respect empowers men towards people goes a long way. Respect is harmony. Harmony is the process by which sounds are put together to join a whole unit. So, if respect is that powerful, why don't we show it or give it enough? Respect empowers men to move mountains, do more for each other, save each other. Even Mr. Franklin said, all I want is a little bit of it. That tells me it's important to have it, share it, but yet we don't give it enough. When respect is earned, it's like a job well done. There's a satisfaction to that. In our shared humanity, respect goes a long way. So today, I give you all respect. Please, share it, show it, and it'll come back to you 10 times more than what you gave. Be the change you want to see. Thank you.
Our next speaker is someone who's been lost in the darkness for a long time. Someone who knows about pain and suffering. A man who knows what it feels like to be a nobody. A man who has also found the light. Please, everybody, welcome Pedro Santos.
"1993. My mother gave birth to me 2/28/1993. She was 15 years old, my father approximately 26. In the United States, a lot of people will say, your father is a rapist. But in my country, the Dominican Republic, it's normal. I don't even remember seeing my father and my mother together, ever. But I do remember that I was living with my mother alone. I remember when I was 3 years old, one of my cousins from my mother's side of the family stabbed me on my left eye with a sewing needle. Imagine the pain. I was rushed to the hospital, and a surgery saving my eye. I remember living with my mother when I was 4 years old. She was acting differently, like she was going through something, sitting down, walking around, sitting back down. I couldn't understand because I was too small, a little boy. Then she snapped, "Ven aquí, come here." She tied me by my hand, forced me to go to the bed, and tied me to the bed. That way I couldn't move. Closed the door, other window, and left. House made of wood, a roof of tin. The degree outside, 90 degrees. No fan inside the house. Mommy, mommy, mommy. For how many hours? I don't know. Probably 6, probably 7. I was thirsty, hungry. I don't know how my uncle found out, but he broke the door. When he saw me, he rested his shoulder. I think he thought I was dead. He untied me, and we hugged for a minute. I don't remember what happened after that, but I do remember around 4 or 5 o'clock, me and my mother went to the river. She needed to wash some clothes. She never told me this, but I know the reason why we went because she knew I liked to swim, so she needed to make it up to me. And our way back, we was happy. Then my mother stopped. I was confused. Then I see this man walking fast, a rubber bell from a tractor motor, probably 15 times stronger than RTB wire. It was my father. He was very angry. My mother started paranoid, running around in circles. She couldn't go nowhere. To her left, a fence, thousands of banana trees. To the right, another fence, thousands of banana trees. Back, the river. Who gonna run that way? Don't do it, don't do it. My father walked to her, punched her, kicked her, started beating her with a bell. After he was done, my mother ran off, screaming. I will never forget this. My father grabbed me. Then I heard some commotion. Don't do it, Daisy, don't do it. My mother was running back with a machete. She tried to kill my father. but some people prevent her from doing it. My father took me. Since that day, I was living with him. This is the first time I found out I had a stepmother and a little sister. I didn't know nothing about my mother for 3 years. Then I found out she ran away to the capital of the country and took a job as a housekeeper. She used to come see me once a year for my birthday, bring me candy, thing I used to like, and then disappear for another year. Living with my father was horrible, very difficult, very tough guy. He used to do the same thing to my stepmother, the same thing he did to my mother, but worse. I used to see this almost every week. The irony about the whole thing is that my stepmother used to do the same thing to my sister, and me and my father used to watch and do nothing. Then someday my father would get angry, grab the TV wire, beat me up with that. Walk to the tree, break a branch, peel it off, take your clothes off, beat me up with that. Let's go outside the house, grab a cheese grater, nail there, grab a rock over your head, dousing some mosquito, killing me. Don't do this to me anymore. You're gonna kill me. How long I was there? 30 minutes? An hour? I don't know. Because of my eye situation, because of the injury, my eye used to twist since I was a little boy. I even got cataracts. I used to get bullied a lot. People used to call me names in school, in the neighborhood. My father told me, you're gonna be blind for the rest of your life if we don't get money for the surgery. So I say, well, I guess that's what it is. I was used to that type of stuff already. Then a miracle happened. My father said, do you know your mother's supposed to come today? I said, why? She outside, standing on the street, just looking this way. I looked through a window and I saw her there. I ran and we hugged. She said, go pack your stuff. We out of here. We're going to the United States. 2005, at the age of 11, I came to the United States, Long Island, New York. I received my surgery. My eyes were saved, but I couldn't see from it anymore. The doctor said the eye is still going to twist for a few months until the eye healed. Then I started to go to school. It was different. People from different countries, you don't see that in my country. I was the only Dominican in my class. People started bullying me, twisting their eyes, calling me names. I used to act like I didn't care. I was used to it, but inside, it was killing me. It was making me angry. Then a boy from Central America sounded the fire alarm. I was confused. Everybody ran out. Outside, the police walked to me. Put your hand behind your back. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He grabbed my hand and arrested me. Somebody told him that I did it, and I didn't do it. I got scared, started to cry. I even pissed on myself in front of everybody. I was 11 years old. My teacher, Mr. Morales, he said, come here. I know you didn't do this. I know you know who did it, but I didn't say nothing. I was very scared. He said something to the officer. The officer looked at me. I was only in this country for 4 months. Let me go and did like this with my head. I tied a sweater over my waist. I didn't want nobody to see me like this. I went home. My mother never found out to this day what happened. I guess she had the first one. Then the school was closed permanently. We was transferred to another school, Hussain Middle School. I started to go there. A lot of violence between African American and Latinos. Most of them gang members, Blood, SWP, 18th Street, all enemies of the MS-13. The area where I used to live, MS-13 territory. When they found out I used to go to that school, you belong to this gang, you belong to this gang. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I even got jumped a few times. Then I stopped going to school without my mother knowing. Then the school called my house. Hey, your son not coming to school. Problems with my mother. So I started to go back to school. This time I met some guy from El Salvador. Then I found out it was member of the 18th Street gang. They bury enemy with the MS-13. I started to hang out with him. Then I started to smoke weed, drink. Then I started to have sex. Then I started to feel free, like I was different. Then I started to do mission for the gang for 6 months. Then before I was 13, I joined the gang. Years went by, I was doing horrible things. Trust me when I tell you. My mother tried to save me, but I was already gone. Then in 2010, when I was 17 years old, I committed a crime. One of most, a lot of crime, more than the second degree. I was arrested. I was sent to Nassau County Jail, to the adolescent housing unit. A lot of fight. They sent me to solitary confinement for a year. I was losing my mind. I didn't care. I never going home. That's what I thought. My first time in prison. What do I know? My mother used to come see me and see me behind the wall glass every time. We used to argue a lot. Then one day I say, you think I forgot what you did to me? You're the reason why I'm here. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't need you. I don't need you. I went to my cell angry. Thank God I wasn't adolescent and in solitary confinement. The officer came to my cell. What's wrong with you? You gonna do that to your mother? What about if she died today? Then I thought about it. I was holding all that hate for many years, and I didn't even know it. Can I go back? Yes, I went back. I had a conversation with my mother that day, the first time. She explained everything that happened, and then I understood it wasn't her fault. We hugged, and we forgave each other. In 2012, I was sent to the state prison. I started to attend my programs. Years went by, still was doing the same thing. Hanging out with gang members, consuming a lot of drugs. Yes, I consumed a lot of drugs at that time. I'm not ashamed to say it took me out of reality. It gave me freedom. It gave me peace for a few minutes, a few hours. Then one day I was transferred to Coxsackie Correctional Facility. My first day on the yard, I got into a fight with two MS-13. I was sent to solitary confinement for 90 days. After a few days of being there, this guy knocked on my wall. He said, hey, what's your name? What you here for? Mind your business. And I didn't say nothing else. Then something was bothering me. Go talk to this guy. Go talk to this guy. So I knocked on the wall. Hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Hey, it's okay. I knew you was going to come back. Hey, how you knew that? Because I can tell you a good guy. You cannot hide that. He said, my name is Keith Hart. I've been on the box since the 90s. I'm never going to get out. I don't want to get on your business, but I can tell that you're doing all of this for the gang, and your former friends, I'm pretty sure they don't come to see you. They don't write you. I'm pretty sure your mother's the only one that comes to see you. I say, hold on. I got to do something. I went to my bed, put a sheet over my head, and started to cry quietly. The reason why I did it, I remember one day that I went home late, probably 3 o'clock in the morning. When I opened the door, I was very drunk, probably high. My mother was waiting for me there. You're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me. We got into a big argument. Then she walked away. She said, I'm done with you. Then she stopped. He said, Prince, that's what my family called me. The reason why you're doing this, your friends, when you get killed, because of the thing you're doing, They're not gonna go see you and put flour. When you get arrested, they're not gonna go see you. I'm the only one. Make my word. Remember that. That's why I cried that day in that cell, quietly, because I remember what my mother said years before my arrest. Then I was sent to this facility in 2018. Something in me was different. I couldn't figure it out. But the old me still was bothering me. Still wanted to be a gang member. I still wanted to do things. Lose myself on the crowd. Be free. I didn't want it to go back to my old me anymore. But then I started to think, I want to be free again. How my first wife gonna look? My children. Then I started thinking about my miserable life. How I'm gonna change it? Then I started to go to church. I met Deacon Lape there. He my witness. He used to preach. I used to talk to somebody else. Hey, stop talking. I didn't care. You don't know me. But then one day he said, Moses, he killed somebody. James, he did these things. But do we remember them for that? Or the thing they did after? What about you? Do you want people to remember you for what you did? Or what you did after? He don't know this until today, but that changed my life completely. He gave me the opportunity to translate the service in church, even though I don't speak English that well. But he always told me, you're gonna do it right. Then he gave me the opportunity to work with him in the office. Why this guy doing this for me? I guess he was giving me a second opportunity to prove myself. Then our officer gave me opportunity to work in the hospital, even though a lot of people say we don't want him here. But he gave me a second opportunity to prove myself, and I tried my best to do that. Then I attended my GD. Then I called my friend in a three-way. Hey, I'm out. I don't want to be in the gang anymore. I'm doing 20 years to life. Y'all don't come see me? Do whatever is best for you. It was easy for me to get out because of my status in that gang. But it was difficult for me to make the decision to get out because that was the only thing I knew all my life since I was 13. I didn't want to go back to the old me. Yes, I applied for Ball College. They also gave me a second opportunity, and I took it. Yes, I still get angry, frustrated. Sometimes I even say things I don't want to say to people. Every day I try to be the best person I can be. Yes, I lost myself. I'm trying to find my way back. The reason why I'm here today in prison is because when I was 4 years old, I started loving myself. If I don't love myself, I cannot love anybody else. For many years, I tried to do all bad things to people. A lot of people used to point finger to me. You're gonna be this, you're gonna be that, you're gonna be a bad guy. And then I started to believe in myself. And I'm here to tell you not everybody in prison is a bad person. Some people fake it. Other people don't know better. Or they make mistakes and they learn from it. They didn't know my story. That's why they used to point finger. But now you do. Thank you.
It is my honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker. He's a man of many great things. A man of God, a man most humble, a man who always wears black instead of orange. He's the chaplain here, and he helped our last speaker, Pedro, change his life. Please, everybody, give it up for Deacon Lape.
I started my career as a social worker, and for 23 years, I worked in the substance use disorder fields and behavioral health. 18 of those years, I ran outpatient clinic and partial hospitalization programs, along with some residential programs. It brought a real sense of purpose and fulfillment in my life. something that's really important to me. Along the way, I got this idea that maybe I'll become a deacon in the Catholic Church. I prayed about it, talked with people about it, applied, and 6 years later, they actually ordained me a deacon in May of 2011. Then a few years later, I got a phone call from the diocese, and they said to me, "We have a position open at a prison, and we think you would be really good at being a prison chaplain." I wasn't sure how to take that comment. I thought about it, I prayed about it, talked with people about it, and then here I am. I thought at that time, I'm sure there's lots of Catholics in the prison that I can give spiritual guidance and nurturance to. Why not? I could do something different. I got here, and on the first day, they gave me a list, and they said, "Here's the list of all the faith groups that are in this facility. And you are responsible for the Catholics, Santerias, Rastafarians, Wiccans, and Buddhists." I said, okay. And along with that, in this facility, we also have very active members of the Nation of God and Earth, Nation of Islam, Muslim, Shia, Odinist, Jewish, Native American, and Protestant. I walked away saying, I have a lot to learn. Not only do I need to learn about the prison environment and how to be a chaplain in the prison environment, but also all of these faith groups. But I realized quickly that I had something that not a lot of people had. I worked directly with an imam, a rabbi, and an Episcopalian priest. And no, that's not the start of a bad joke. I also got a lot of support from the staff here who do the religions and the incarcerated individuals themselves. I remembered quickly of something I read of Mother Teresa, who worked with the dying and the poor of Calcutta. And there was a young journalist who wanted to interview her. And she said to Mother, "Isn't this great? You have a chance to spread the gospel and to talk about Jesus with all these people and possibly convert them before they die." And Mother Teresa, who was all about 4'11", looked up at the reporter, shook her finger in her face, and said, "No, no, no. I'm here to help them be the best Hindi, the best Muslim, the best person that they can be." That's kind of my mantra now as a prison chaplain. I'm here to work with all people of all faiths to be the best person that they can be. Whether it's helping a group get the resources they need so that they can run a service, a class, or a festival, or providing pastoral care or spiritual direction to a person in need, or need to be the bearer of bad news and meet with someone and let them know that a loved one had just died. I needed to make sure that I was present to that person, listening to those people, and providing hope at a time in their lives when they struggle the most. Joining in with them in their shared humanity, joining in with them in their pain and their joy. This was even more evident a few years ago during the COVID peak, if you will. We're still dealing with it, obviously. And the programs were all shut down for periods of time. And all the non-essential employees were asked not to come in so that we can keep everyone as safe as we could. And we chaplains, our roles changed dramatically. My job became walking the cell blocks and housing units, stopping and talking with everybody who I encountered, listening to their pain, their confusion, their new normal, if you will, their fear, hearing them talk about what they had no control over. And I knew somehow I need to be present with them and provide hope and encouragement along the way. I heard it said once, someone told me, you know, to be a good chaplain, you're going to know you're being a good chaplain because the incarcerated people are going to complain you're spending too much time with staff. And the staff are going to complain you're spending too much time with the incarcerated people. And I find that to be very true. And somehow I need to walk that line being a chaplain to everybody. There's also a saying of a Jesuit priest who worked for Congress as a chaplain. And he once said, no one wants a chaplain until they need a chaplain. And when they need a chaplain, you better be ready to respond. A few years ago, Christmas time, during COVID, my children and I, we went in the car and drove to my parents. We met with them for about a half hour out in their garage, standing about 15 feet away from them. I didn't want to be the one responsible for getting them sick. We stayed for about a half hour, drove home, and to try to make this Christmas day special for my kids, a different day than we normally have for the holiday, I spent more money than I ever could for a prime rib dinner. I cooked it. I made everything perfect, I must say so myself. I set the dining room table instead of the kitchen table where we normally eat. I even used cloth napkins instead of paper. Lit some candles, put on some Christmas songs, brought the food out, and called to my kids, it's time to eat. And just when we're about ready to sit down, my phone rang. And on the other side of the phone was the facility. There was a death of a person in the medical unit who was on hospice that was mentioned before, and I needed to come in. So of course, that's what I did. Got here, we made the necessary phone calls to the loved ones, started the process for the arrangements for the burial. And I spent some time with the hospice worker, an incarcerated individual, who was with the person during their last breath, giving them an opportunity to have a conversation and process what it is they just experienced. I wasn't mad, I wasn't upset, because it reminded me of something that we all need to be reminded of, something we're talking about here, that shared humanity. And we share that most readily in the time of our sorrows, griefs, and pains, as well as our joys. Thank you.
Thank you, Deacon Lape. Our next performance is a young man that didn't know where to turn when the heartbreak changed his life forever. Please, everybody, give a round of applause for singer and songwriter Robert Van Orden.
How everybody doing today? That's good, that's good. So I'm gonna sing y'all a little song that I wrote during my incarceration. It is a remix by an artist that just recently passed away by the name of PNB Rock. Basically, it's the words that I never got to say. It's the words that never came out. This is Rewind. I still remember our first date when we went and seen the game. Can't forget it like the day you walked away. Looking back right now like, damn, what would've happened happened? You got me stressing, got me thinking what could have happened. I haven't seen you in a long time. Haven't seen you. Baby, can we press rewind? Rewind. It's been a long time since I've seen you. And I've been thinking I did you wrong. Baby girl, I can't explain that. We made this song, 'cause girl, I want your heart to mean that. That way I left it, girl. Know your heart was torn, and I don't want you to feel like you've been all alone, 'cause girl, it wasn't you, but instead it was me. And everything gon' be alright, even though it's hard to see. Baby girl, don't stress the fact that they went and killed my name. I'm sorry that I cheated you, baby. I went and played the game. Listen, I know I did you wrong. Baby, ain't no explaining that. But girl, our love was strong. So maybe we can take it back to that one point in time. Girl, you were mine, and you were always in my line. Listen, I know I did you wrong. Baby, ain't no explaining that. But girl, our love was strong. Maybe we can take it back to that one point in time. Girl, you were mine, and you were always in my line. I wish that we could just rewind. What would've happened? All these thoughts run through my mind. What could've happened? You got me singing, it's my time. What would've happened? Girl, you stay up on my mind. Like what would've happened? If a dewdrop was sent from God up above to nurture a flower created for love, then wouldn't it make sense that God has a plan for those teardrops created by a woman or a man? Now, if you think about it, if what I said is believed to be true, that means the teardrops I've cried were created for you. You know, a teardrop is such an unpredictable thing. So you could really just imagine all the love that one teardrop must bring. Thank you.
One of our next speakers is one of my fellow bar students. He believes it's a common misconception that tough people are usually bad in a place like this. But his philosophy is that you can be both tough and good. And his joint speaker has a lot of courage to take this stand, to take the stage and stand side by side with one of us. Please, everybody, give a round of applause to John Giuca and Officer Hussain.
During my 18 years in prison, I took a tour of the state. From downstate to the North Country and Western New York, and from segregated confinement to population.
I've served a lot less time, and I've done most of it right here at Coxsackie Correctional Facility.
Oftentimes, it's hard for me and my fellow prisoners to see that in order to work here, sometimes you have to have the patience of a Jedi Knight. We may ask a correction officer a question or for something tangible like soap or toilet paper, not realizing that it might be the 50th question or request that they had to field that morning alone, and it probably was. I saw what they go through when I got a porter spot, which is the job assignment where you're out cleaning the cell block while everyone else is locked in their cells. The result of being out of your cell while everyone else is locked in, and every one of them needing something, whether it was something physical or they just had a question and needed some information, is that sometimes you could start to feel overwhelmed, and it's frustrating. So I saw what they go, or some guys even take kindness for weakness too. So I saw what they go through on a day-to-day basis, and how frustrating it can be, and how it takes serious fortitude to not let it change you.
Housing units, like a lot of other job assignments, come with their own unique challenges, variables, and personalities. Correction officers often find themselves wearing a lot of different hats and working with a lot of different civilian staff in order to ensure that needs are met and that valid requests are addressed, no matter how numerous or obscure they may be.
We as prisoners have to try to remember that the same people who watch over us every day are not the same people who put us here. We either did that to ourselves, or in some cases, someone else did that to us, but it wasn't the correction officers who put us here. They're just regular people who happen to get a job with the state. And so we're stuck here, sometimes they get stuck here, and we have to make it work.
Stuck. That's a terrible choice of words. We as officers are often stuck or mandated beyond our shift's end, up to 8 hours often, where we are further away from our families and we find ourselves further inside our shared humanity. That's tacky, right? Our shared incarceration. Yeah, that'll stick. We weren't there for that one bad day, but we're certainly here for the long stay that follows. We are paid observers, yes, but in order to be able to do our jobs as professionals, we have to look past the act that brought these incarcerated individuals here and instead look at the people that are standing before us. It's then that the human element is quick to reveal itself, whether it's warm moments in the visit room, tears shed during a phone call, and on escorts, when we witness complete grief at a family member's wake, or complete and calm grace following bad news at the oncologist. Yes. No. Yes. Officers are usually the first people that incarcerated individuals go to when they need someone to confide in or when they need objective advice. We really are in this together.
So we find ourselves together here in this moment of time, and we have to have some compassion for each other. We have to try to see each other from each other's perspective and try to make it work.
It's contagious.
In her book, Semicolon, Cecilia Watson, who's also a Bard professor, said that anytime humans get involved with anything, there's always the opportunity for our best and most beautiful qualities to come out. But there's equally the opportunity for our cynicism and our petty little hatreds to rear their ugly heads. She also said perhaps the only thing that could be advised is that anyone charged with application of the law, a judge, a juror, a cop, a correction officer, should always be encouraging the better angels of our nature and always be on the lookout for the worst devils in it. We all know someone who was changed by power. We have to be bigger than that. And remember, we're dealing with humans, many of whom will be our fellow citizens and maybe even neighbors one day, or at least our fellow countrymen.
The one thing that correction officers crave more than caffeine is a smooth day. A day where everyone seems to be on the same page and things seem almost routine. With the bulk of my career still ahead of me, I look forward to those smooth days, and the approach that I'll take to get to them is one that is fair, firm, and most importantly, consistent. Here's to being human, here's to being better, and here's to some smooth days. Thank you.
Our next speaker is someone who wants to remind you that you are your constant thoughts. So be careful what you think. Because what you think about, you bring about. Thoughts become things. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Vaughn.
Peace. I'd like to give a big shout out to all of the parents, all of the uncles and aunts, big brothers and big sisters. Shout out to you all. Shout out to all of the people who've accepted the responsibility and stepped up to the plate to help guide our children into the future. But most importantly, shout out to all of the parents without voices who need to be heard. Hear me. I'm the father of a very observant and receptive 13-year-old boy. His name is Mace, and we've never actually met in person. My son was a little over a month old when I got arrested. When I was convicted at trial, I lost contact with everyone that mattered. I was in a deep, dark place for the first 8 years of a 20-year sentence, and I was searching everywhere else for the light that dwelled so deep within. But it was in there, and I found it. Yep, I found me. And now I'm in a place where I can enlighten. So my son is already 8 years old when we had our first conversation. And I got to admit, I was way more nervous than he was. It had to be excitement, nervousness, shame, guilt, and anxiety all boiled into one. See, I've experienced a lot of things, and I've done a lot of reading. And now I have so much to tell him, but I don't want to bombard him with all of the things that I've been holding inside. So I decided that I need to get to know him first, and that I want to talk about the things that he want to talk about. So I finally get the chance to talk to him, and it went nothing like I thought it would. I called his mom, and we went through the pleasantries and talked for a few minutes, and then she called him to the phone. And he said, hello? I said, what's up, Mace? Do you know who this is? He said, yeah, this is my dad. I said, yes, son, it's your dad. How are you? He said, I'm good, but I miss you and I love you, Dad. Now I'm thinking to myself, wow. I felt so happy and grateful at that moment. I was happy that my son knew who I was and some things about me. I was definitely grateful to his mom for taking the time out to make that possible. That was the first time I told my son I love him. And now I do so every chance that I get. But I have to explain to him why. So I tell him, son, my dad never told me that he loved me. Yeah, he showed it by providing quality time and material things, but he never actually gave me a hug and told me that he loved me. And as an adult, I now realize that we were emotionally disconnected because of it. So I may get a little crazy and tell you that I love you 2, 3 times in one conversation. That's just because I missed out on that. I don't want you to miss out on anything. Do you understand that? He said, yes, I understand. It's okay. It's because you miss me so much. So we've been getting to know one another over the phone, and even though I'm not there physically, I can help guide him mentally and build a connection. That's why I strive to prepare for our conversations by having topics for us to focus on when we talk. And as I've come to learn, it never goes as planned. This call happens to take place in February. It's Black History Month. I said, hello? He said, hey, Dad, what's up? I said, peace. Everything is up. What's new since we last spoke? How was school? He said, good. I said, it's Black History Month. What are y'all doing in school for that? He said, oh, yeah. We all had to pick a name of a famous black person and write an essay about them. I said, that's cool, okay. So who did you get? He said, Dad, I got Jesse Jackson. So now I'm thinking, Jesse Jackson, all right. I'm mentally going through my Jesse Jackson files. Civil rights activist, NAACP, first black man to run for the president of the United States. Okay. The Rainbow Coalition. All right, I'm ready. So I asked him, what do you know about Jesse Jackson? And he said, that's Michael Jackson's brother. Could you believe it? I'm like, but do you even know who Michael Jackson is? He said, yeah, Jesse Jackson's brother. You know, I got a laugh out of that, but I had to focus up. So I asked him, where did you hear that? And he told me he got it up on Wikipedia. So I had to bring him up to speed on Jesse Jackson and who he is. And he ended up doing a pretty good essay that month. But then it's on to the next thing. Soccer was different. It started like any other activity or topic we've discussed. But the next thing I know, all he want to do and talk about is soccer. He actually knew a lot about it. So Christmas come around, he wants a new soccer ball, shin guards, and a pair of cleats to match his team uniform. So I'm asking him questions about soccer just to get him to talk. And like I said, he actually knew a lot about it. Definitely more than I did. He's telling me the player stats, the names of different teams. This is going on for a few months. Our conversations are filled with FIFA, the World Cup, Neymar, Cristiano Ronaldo, strikers, hat tricks, different matches on YouTube. He even convinced his mom to let him get a mohawk so he can be an elite striker for his team. So if you know me, I'm thinking it'd be best if he knew as much about soccer as possible. So I'm doing all this reading to accumulate these soccer facts to share with him. We're talking, and I asked him, Mace, what do you know about the history of soccer? He said, what do you mean? Like the old players? I said, well, yes and no, because I'm also talking about how it started, where, and when. He said, oh, I don't know any of that. So now I need a crash course in everything soccer. We end our call. I love you, son. Talk to you later. I love you too, Dad. Bye. Click. Now I need soccer info. So I'm on the hunt. I get back to the block. I make my announcement. Does anyone have any information about soccer? I'm accepting magazines, almanacs, encyclopedia, books of all kinds. I head straight over to the soccer players. We picked the perfect book. It has the history and everything. So now I'm going in. Our next conversation, I'm telling them about the first soccer league founded in 1888 in England, the dimensions of the field, which is 328 feet long and 230 feet wide. The first black soccer players, Arthur Wharton. He was born in England in 1889. He played for Rotherham United. But Mace said, Dad, I don't want to be a soccer player anymore. So now it's on to the next. So now he wants to learn to draw. So we start to talk about art. You know me, I'm thinking, my pops was pretty good with the pen and pencil. Me, I'm halfway decent, but who knows? Mace, he could be the next Jean-Michel Basquiat or Picasso. And who am I to deny him that? And remember, I don't want him to miss out on anything. But sometimes our conversations aren't always that consistent. We could be discussing art and the differences between paint colors and shades. I'm sending him drawings and outlines of superheroes and ninjas, some of the personal sketches that I've done. But then we may not talk for a few weeks. And when I finally do catch up with him to continue and see what it is that he's learned, something else has caught his attention. Then I have to adapt and respond accordingly. It can be difficult at times because we have to compete with so many other things to gain their attention. I found out a lot that he just pauses the game or YouTube video when he's talking to me. He never turns it off. He just pauses it. I don't say anything to him about it, but I take note of it. I log it in mentally because these are some of the things that I'm up against. I'll never forget our first conversation about girls. And as always, it went nothing like I expected. I asked him, Mace, do you have a girlfriend? He said, yeah. Now, mind you, he's like 9 years old at the time. So I'm thinking, you know, puppy love, passing notes in class and stuff like that. But I found out through asking them these questions that they had already been together for 2 years. I was definitely surprised. They go to the same school, but they communicate mostly through FaceTime, texting, YouTube, and PS5 multiplayer video games. She lives in Manhattan and Mace lives in the Bronx. So now I'm thinking, a 9-year-old in a long-distance relationship for 2 whole years. How is that possible? So I asked him, I said, Mace, this girl held your attention for 2 years? How did y'all manage that? He said, I don't know. We used to hang out a lot at recess. She was my friend. But I said, Mace, you were 7 years old 2 years ago. He said, yeah, Dad, and she was 8. She was my friend. It just seemed so simple to him, so I just decided to let it go. I said, okay, son, that's cool. You did good, and I respect that. He said, all right, Dad, bye, I gotta go. I'm like, hold on, you ready to go? He said, yes. We have less than a minute left. And I asked him, you know, how do you know that? He said, Mom showed me how to time the calls when we talk so we don't get cut off. I said, well, that makes sense. All right, son, I love you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Later, Dad, click. Once again, I was prepared, but unprepared. I'm guessing that's the beauty of it, because no matter how prepared we may think we are, we'll always find ourselves altering the script. That's word. Being a parent is being involved. We may not always know how to help, but as long as we're involved, we'll see that the help is needed. And me and my son both needed it. Listen up. In between our conversations, I'll write once, sometimes twice a week. He always say you're gonna write back, but that never happens. That's okay though, because I was doing this for the both of us. And I wanted him to get to know me as a person and see that his dad is a good man. So it's no more scripts this time. I'm just going with the flow. I write short stories, send him little notes, send him some designs of sneakers and shoes that I've done with a note attached asking his opinion. He said he liked rap music. I sent him a few songs I wrote during the COVID lockdown. I even sent him a business plan. He never read it. That's cool. I just wanted him to see what it is that I was interested in. You see, in the beginning, it was all about his interests, and I left mine out. But once I added the things that I like to do, it was amazing. And it caused my son to ask me the most inspiring and reassuring question I've ever been asked by anyone. Here's how it went. Hello? Hey, Dad, what's up? Everything is up. What do you think about the last sketch I sent you? You think they'll look good on our feet? He said, yeah, but can I ask you a question, Dad? I said, yeah, sure, what's up? He said, are you famous? And I said, am I famous? What do you mean, am I famous? He said, Dad, you do everything. You write stories, you draw, you design clothes, you write music. You be sending me all this stuff, so I just thought, and I'm like, hold on, son. I'm not famous. I was doing all these things to connect with you, but you switch your focus so fast. I'm just trying to keep up and gain your attention. I also do these things because I would like to be successful. And if you ask me, I'll choose for success over fame any day. But then I had to explain the difference between the two and why I choose success. That right there is when I felt like the greatest dad in the world. It's not because my son thought I was famous. Nah. It's because he saw the potential in me, even though he's never actually seen me. He saw past all of the things I was competing against for his attention. Past the 100-mile distance, the 40-foot walls, and handcuffs. past all the social networking sites, the music, the video games, and girls, past all of the shame and stereotype that comes with incarceration. He saw past all those things, and he saw me. Peace.